Hi, this is the new MG ZS Hybrid Plus. Is it the first MG I've driven? No, but it's the first one you've seen because I never released the other one. And it's the hybrid version, which means new tech, a new design, and much better fuel economy in theory. And because I'm filming this part separately, get ready for the location change. 3, 2, 1. Let's start at the front. Obviously, there are some pretty major changes, most notably at the front, where the MG ZS has adopted this new thing that automakers seem to be doing with that split line across the middle there, just above the grille. I've seen it a lot recently. There's even one MG model where it looks a lot like Toyota's most recent vehicles. And I kind of like it myself personally, but it's just something I've noticed that is quite a big thing in the car industry nowadays. You can also see that big old grille opening. The MG badge is now moved to the hood as opposed to in the center. So kind of the opposite of what Ford used to do, where the badge was on the hood, then in the grille. On the MG here, it's the opposite. Man, words are hard. You can see also functional brake cooling ducts there somewhere. The screen is obscured by my tripod, but trust me, they're there. Here, yes, okay, got that. And there's a silver line in the middle, and the classic MG badge on the hood, which I mentioned, but I didn't mention that it's still the classic MG badge that we all know and love. Even though this car has almost nothing to do with those old MGs, it's still nice to see. Next, the side profile, which isn't all that different compared to the outgoing MG ZS. This is a pretty compact car. It's a subcompact class of crossover, if you will. It's a B segment crossover. So like the Hyundai Kona and other stuff that I've reviewed, the Peugeot 2008, the Opel Mokka, that kind of thing. Except this one is, as you might have noticed by now, a little more grounded in reality. This being the premium trim level, it gets these sort of teledial looking wheels, but not really. I like the look of them, don't like the color. I've made my stance on diamond cut wheels very clear in the past, so I won't bore you with that. Also, the ZS here is one of a growing number of Chinese cars that opts for actual high quality tires. I believe some of MG's cars still come with those weird Atlas and Windforce sorts of deals. This one's on Kumho tires, and Kumho is a pretty good brand, all things considered. Going back to the wheels for just a moment, the Luxury, the top-of-the-line model, gets a different set of diamond-cut alloys, and the base model gets steelies and hubcaps. We'll come back to that because this car has one of the most interesting ways of cost-cutting I've seen in a long time. It's not really a specific thing, it's more sort of the highs and the lows and the choices that MG has made to reduce costs, or where they've decided to save money and not save money. And finally, the rear end, which is completely different to the outgoing MG ZS. The old car had the license plate in the bottom of the bumper and had a big MG badge in the center of the tailgate. Now the license plate goes up into the tailgate. There's a completely different taillight design with full LED turn signals. Oh no, wait, I lied. Yes, all of the turn signals are filament bulbs, including the ones in the mirrors. So that thing I just said about the high-low cost cutting and no cost cutting, that's one of the examples of that. You can see the MG badge in the center as well, ZS and Hybrid Plus badges in the corner, and the cardinal sin, and something that they didn't get rid of from the old ZS, the fake exhausts. There will never be a place for fake exhausts in any car. I have the same opinion on them as everybody else in the car world at this point, especially when you can clearly see the actual exhaust pipe poking out from underneath the bumper. But whatever. You can also see the rear fog light in the center, very Formula One style. Oh, the car locked itself. Lovely. And also something I haven't seen in a long time, the parking sensors. There's only 3 of them. I've only seen that type of combination in really small, cheap cars like the Fiat 500 and the Volkswagen Up. Usually slightly bigger cars and slightly more expensive cars like the MG ZS here, they have 4 parking sensors on the back, but this one has 3. And this being the middle of the road trim level, there's only the rear parking sensors. There's no front parking sensors. So what do I think of the MG ZS Hybrid Plus's design? I think it's pretty cool. It's something a little more old school and familiar. So it's not like crazy sharp or really intense looking, like it catches your attention a lot, but it's not like that, but it's also much more subtle, and I appreciate it for that. It's more old school. It doesn't take a lot of getting used to. It's the kind of thing you would expect to see. It's a more grounded approach to the B-segment crossover, and I appreciate the MG ZS for that. One thing I didn't mention about the design is how obscenely tall the roof and the greenhouse area is, but we'll get to that momentarily. So now that we're done talking about the ZS's design, let's move on to practicality. First, the key fob, pretty standard MG stuff. It's pretty small, which I like, and it has just 3 buttons: unlock, tailgate release, and lock. So let's unlock the doors and release the tailgate. There's no automatic tailgate on this one, so we're gonna have to walk over and demonstrate that way. And there's your cargo area with 443 liters of space with the rear seats up. There's also an adjustable cargo floor, as you can see by these little railings. I'm not sure if it's been removed in this press car or it's in the low position. I'll have to check that, but you do have an adjustable floor. There's all my equipment that you regularly see. Some extra storage in there and some exposed metal. Some little nits, some lighting, some hooks, and some tethering points. And if you fold down the rear seats, you get 1,400 and something liters, that much. I just read the spec sheet and I forgot. Yay me. Once you're done, you just, well, grab your indent there and close the tailgate like normal. Yay, it's raining. What about space in the back seats? Let's find out. Surprisingly excellent, actually. This front seat is in my driving position. And there's plenty of knee room for me in here, and there's also plenty, sorry, I look terrible, plenty of headroom, a significant amount of headroom, actually. There's a USB port back here, just a regular USB-A. And the middle seat, both of these seats are in about the same position, I should say. Middle seat is also fine. There's a little hump in the floor. I don't know if you can get this car with all-wheel drive. I don't think you can, but the footwells here are pretty wide, so even if you do have to intrude into the passenger's foot space, it's not so bad. You do fit just fine. And you get a little view of the new and improved interior. Real quick, before we jump into the front, obviously there's a keyless entry system. The car's unlocked right now. You press this button and it locks. There's no power folding mirrors on this one. And to get in, you don't grab the handle, you press the button a second time. And interior. With the standard cloth seats, although they are pretty nice. They do have some white stitching and this interesting diamond pattern. It kind of reminds me of something you would see in the 90s, just not as colorful. And generally the interior has a whole bunch of new stuff, so let's get in and check it out. And now we're inside the ZS Hybrid. Starts up in EV mode every time. The engine should kick in any minute now. There we go. You have to turn on the climate control to force the engine to come on. Let's see if it'll let us rev it. No, it won't. First thing that greets you in the new MG ZS when you sit down is the new steering wheel, which is grabbed straight from the new HS, the bigger SUV, and it's a rather lovely thing. I absolutely love this design. I love the shape of it. I love the controls and the airbag cover here in the middle and the copious amounts of bright work and the design of this bottom spoke here. It's all very nice. On this side you have cruise control related items and one of the star buttons and the voice commands, and on the other side you have answer call, a toggle, which we'll get to, the other star button, and another control joystick. And in the middle we have the horn, which sounds like this. I think I woke up the entire neighborhood with that. The MG ZS Hybrid Plus borrows its transmission straight from the MG3 Hybrid Plus, which also basically has the same powertrain. It's a 3-speed automatic, according to the spec sheet. I'm going to call this a 3-speed dedicated hybrid transmission, because I'm pretty sure that's the type of setup we're dealing with, but okay, sure, it's an automatic. And it's controlled through this big-ass thrust lever in the center console. This entire thing moves when you change gear. Although it does work in the same principle as a lot of these things. You pull it all the way down to go into drive. You go halfway up or halfway down for neutral. which is also effectively your auto hold because this car doesn't have auto hold, and all the way up puts you into reverse, revealing a frankly comically low resolution backup camera and your rear parking sensors as well. And then to go into park, you push the P, and also engages the parking brake automatically every time, as you might have heard, and that's about it. Infotainment system. The old MG ZS had a smaller screen here and it ran slightly older software. This one has a much bigger screen. That's the size. Much bigger screen and much newer software. And it works a lot like other MG vehicles, at least the current ones. You got a bunch of tiles here on the home screen with shortcuts to main functionalities. And when you swipe, you get a whole bunch of other icons that allow you to enter into other vehicle settings. You also get this row of icons here, or column rather. Here's your climate menu. We'll get to that. Your built-in navigation system, which yes, this car does have, despite not being the fully loaded one. There's your media. We almost got interrupted. Great song, by the way, if you know, you know. And your various different vehicle settings that you can mess around with here. And your phone. And that's about it for the infotainment system. It's surprisingly responsive considering you don't have much in the way of physical controls. It works rather well. I didn't really have any major trouble with it, except for the fact that not only is Apple CarPlay wired, you need a USB-A cable in a 2025 model vehicle. I'm not sure how to feel about that, but at least Apple CarPlay works fine once you get the cable. My God, that's a lot of rain. I should close the door. Moving on to the row of physical controls below the screen. That's climate control on or off. That's front defrost, that's rear defrost, that's hazards. That's the home button, for obviously for the infotainment system. Volume down and volume up. Super simple. In here you have that aforementioned USB-A port, a USB-C port, which according to the graphic is charge only, and a 12-volt outlet. No, it's not a cigarette lighter, it's just the same type of cap, but it's a regular 12-volt outlet in case you need extra power. I believe the wireless charger sits here on the cars that have it. This one does not. There's also another big storage area here for your phone, the parking brake, and the drive modes. And that's really about it for the center control stack, other than obviously the climate vents. So let's move on to what's in front of the driver. In this particular trim level, we have a smaller full-color screen in the center, and you have the tachometer on the right with a segmented LCD, and the speedometer on the left also with a segmented LCD. This is a similar setup to what I saw on the Geely Atlas Pro last year, and it's all pretty simple and intuitive, and it's not like a big massive screen staring back at you. To change what's shown in the center, you press this toggle, and those icons at the top will appear, and then you use this little joystick to move between them. So let's do that now. The car menu here, you can have this little calm screen with the date and time. And I should say that the date, despite the forward slashes, is in the European date format, in case the weather wasn't a dead giveaway. There's your trip data from start. You can also scroll down for the total trip data. That's the fuel economy I've managed to achieve. You can get less than that, but with my driving, that's all I've been able to do. By the way, you can reset both of them. Hear that, Cherry? Ironically, the same dealership that provided this car also provided the Cherry. But yes, you can reset both trips, which is great. Further down, you have the energy flow gauge, standard stuff on a self-charging hybrid, or indeed any hybrid, and a power meter, which is fun. Then, moving on, you have a couple of settings here, random settings for the screen. Then you have your ADAS display. Then you have all your vital stats like the tire pressures and the battery, the 12-volt battery voltage. And that's about it. That's all you can really adjust. And over here on the bottom, you have the remaining range on this tank of fuel. The gear, ready, means ready to drive, obviously. The drive mode, which is in that arcade racing game font and color for some reason. I have no idea what that arrows and number display is for. I'll check the spec sheet, but if you know, please let me know in the comments. The total odometer, the speed limit warning, and some icons displaying stuff related to ADAS. And on the right, next to the tachometer, and next to those neon bars that look like the track barriers in a racing game, you have the coolant temperature, and on that side, in a perfect symmetry, is the fuel gauge. And that's it for the driver information system in front of the steering wheel, which is actually really easy to use and it makes a lot of sense. And it's not a big screen blasting you in the face. It's just subtle, but it gets the job done more than good enough. As I said before, you have some cruise control related stuff here and this start button, which hides by far and away the coolest feature in this interior, but we'll get to that. Here's the turn signal stock. I have to say MG has my favorite turn signal sound of all the Chinese automakers. Love that, super satisfying. Headlights and fog lights, and you get the idea. There's the wiper stock. There's the door panel, which is a little wet. The driver's window is fully automatic. The rest of the windows are automatic down only, which I'm not sure is a setup I've seen before. You also can see this lovely cloth material that covers the door panel and a good part of the dash as well. There's your child locks for the rear windows, your power locks, and the mirror controls, which are here. God damn it. And the headlight leveling switch as well. I'm guessing there's supposed to be a button at the end of this, but there's not on this model. And really that's about it for the interior of the MG ZS Hybrid Plus in terms of content. So we can wrap this up with the storage and the build quality. So the build quality in here is actually pretty excellent. The entire top half of the dash, this genuinely surprised me, the entire top half of the dash is covered in soft touch materials. And this material here that covers most of the rest of the dash is also pretty soft touch. And the general build quality feels very solid and very well put together. Something that is backed up by MG's 7-year warranty or 150,000 kilometers, whichever comes first. This feels like a quality product, and there's also very little in the way of shiny surfaces, unless you count the screens and this and that. It's all very well put together, and it feels like a quality product built to last. So well done to MG for that one. What about storage? There's a big door pocket here that can easily fit a large bottle from what I can see. There's a speaker in there instead of a storage area, I'm guessing for warning related stuff. There's these two trays that I mentioned before. There's this cup holder, actually two cup holders with a lot of adjustability. That was sarcasm for the record. Center console and a big, well-shaped glove box. So overall, the MG ZS Hybrid Plus's interior, it's a little bit old school, but it's a great place to be. And now for my favorite feature, this start button. You can adjust the climate controls using the joystick on the steering wheel. This is absolutely genius. If you're familiar with the first generation Lincoln Navigator, you'll remember that that car had climate controls on the steering wheel. That scared me, okay. You'll remember that the first gen Lincoln Navigator had climate controls on the steering wheel, and this is basically the same setup, and it's absolutely genius. I should mention you can also configure both of these to do something else, but why should you? No complaints about physical climate controls when you can just adjust the climate controls using this control on the steering wheel. Here's another example of MG's selective cost cutting. The interior rearview mirror is manually dimmed, and the overhead lighting is halogen and not LED, even though the trunk lighting was LED. Here's the sun visor, no lighting on it, just a mirror. It's the same on the other side as well. And that's really about it for the interior of the MG ZS Hybrid Plus. Finally, the hybrid powertrain. As mentioned before, this is the ZS Hybrid Plus, so it has a slightly different powertrain array. Under the hood is a 1.5-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder gas engine, making about 100 horsepower by itself, but then it's also paired up with a small electric motor and a 1.83 kilowatt-hour battery pack. The total system output is, frankly ridiculous, 194 horsepower and 465 newton meters of torque. That's more than my Lexus, for the record. And my Lexus is a diesel, has 2.2 liters of capacity as well. Power goes to, obviously, the front wheels, to that aforementioned 3-speed DHT automatic hybrid transmission, whatever it may be. And MG claims a 0 to 100 kph time of about 8.7 seconds, which seems a bit slow considering the power and considering for what this is, the ZS Hybrid weighs almost nothing. It's about 1.4 tons, in fact. But still, 8.7 seconds to 100 kph and a fuel economy figure of about 5.5 liters per 100 kilometers of driving, or this many mpgs. But does it actually? And what's it like to drive otherwise? Let's take the ZS Hybrid Plus on the road and find out. Welcome, ladies and gents. It's 9:34 a.m. and we're about to see what the MG ZS Hybrid Plus is like to drive. We're just pulling out of my neighborhood right now. Currently the engine is running, I believe, so it can warm itself up and achieve ideal operating temperatures. I think I finally sorted out the camera angle, so let me know if it's all good. I can see it clearly from my phone here in the center console, but I think it should be good to go now. The weather today sucks. I still feel like people are staring at me, even though I'd imagine they don't really care. Still a bit of traffic. So, what is the MG ZS Hybrid Plus like in the city? The answer is very good. After the experience I've accumulated driving this car around town in the past couple days, this is definitely some type of power split transmission / hybrid system, because it can run as an EV to up to 50 kilometers per hour here, or about 30 miles an hour. And then when you exceed that speed, the engine kicks in almost every time. When it's cold, when it hasn't warmed up yet, the engine is always running until it achieves ideal operating temperatures, and then it can alternate between EV or gas mode. It's a slightly different calibration, but one of the more interesting benefits of this particular hybrid powertrain that I noticed is that, well, the regen braking is actually really good. Like, the regen braking is something I'd expect to see on a full EV instead of a self-charging hybrid like this car is. You can dial up the regen braking. You might have seen that in the infotainment system demonstration. But the regen braking, even when you don't mess around with it, when you just leave it at medium, is actually really good. So obviously, it's very quiet in here, even when the engine is running, if you're on level ground, because as soon as you try going up a hill, the engine decides that it's time to rev to 3,000 RPM and stay there. That can be a little bit annoying. Other than that, it's very quiet in town, it's very comfortable, and there's copious amounts of room and a lot of adjustment in the driving position. The most surprising thing, as I said, is the headroom. I didn't say that before, but the most surprising thing is definitely the headroom. There's like at least 10 centimeters above my head right now, and I like to sit pretty high, and this car's standard driving position is really high anyway. Also, the general all-around visibility is excellent. This particular car, as I said before, does not have the front parking sensors or the 360-degree camera, but it's a pleasant experience, and the experience has nothing to do with the visibility, you idiot. What I meant to say was, the visibility is fine, and although it would be nice to have those items, the cameras and the parking sensors, it's perfectly fine in here, and it's perfectly visible, and it's very easy to park, because as well as that, this car is also not particularly big either. It seems like there's a big line at the traffic light. So I'm going to use that time to say that in town, the MG ZS Hybrid Plus is very good to drive. And I'll tell you what else, it's also really good to drive on twisty roads. I was genuinely surprised to find that out. There's hardly any body roll in the corners, and the steering actually weighs up a little bit when you switch to sport mode. And while it's not, big fun, it's definitely a much better experience than I was expecting for an SUV that doesn't need to do the most when it comes to handling. The ZS Hybrid Plus certainly does a lot, and it was actually kind of fun. Especially considering also that we have a lot of power in here, and it's good to use a little bit of extra power sometimes, But overall, the town driving experience is very good. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna fight this traffic, and then I will join you again on the highway. Anyway, it's the next day, I'm actually on my way back to the dealership to return the car, but we have to squeeze in the highway driving. Now, I already took this car out on the highway last night, and it was thoroughly impressive, but I'm now going to tell you what that exactly means as we make our way onto the highway. Just going to switch to sport mode real quick. There we go. Now, no tomfoolery, because this car hasn't passed break-in period as of yet. So we're just going to get up to 100 kph. There we go. So it pulls pretty hard once you floor it. It's not like you see the speedometer and it's not particularly fast, but it is very much relentless because of all the torque and the way the engine and the electric motor have been calibrated. It just goes. And cruising right now at 100 kilometers an hour, there's a tad bit of wind noise, but overall it's actually pretty quiet in here. Even though the engine is currently running at some pretty high RPMs, it's pretty quiet, relatively, considering that I also have no music on right now, and that this part of the highway has an old road, or rather, the tarmac is very old, so it causes a bit more noise than what would be normal. It's also super comfy on the highway, and it doesn't struggle with speed whatsoever. I did try out the Intelligent Cruise Assist system, so the Advanced Driver Assistance system, and it seemed a little bit confused, although I will give it some slack because it was nighttime and roads, the highways here are usually not marked that clearly anyway. I keep slowing down as if I'm breaking the speed limit at 102, even though that's not the case. Oop, roadworks. Other things worth noting, the fuel economy is excellent. So my average across all different types of driving environments, including driving up hills, because that's where you're going to use the most fuel in this car, because it just defaults to really high RPMs for some reason, probably something to do with the gearbox software. The lowest figure I got was 4.1 liters, or this many mpgs, but generally your average will be around 5 to 6, or this many mpgs, which is excellent. It's one of the strongest suits of a hybrid, and perfect opportunity to floor it again. So now it's revving really high for some reason. That probably isn't very good. Also, I'm gonna have people asking, probably, yes, it can run on electric power at these speeds. It happened last night. It switched to the electric motor at this sort of speed, so it can. I don't know if I mentioned in the previous clip, but visibility all around is very good, and overall the experience behind the wheel of the MG ZS Hybrid Plus is just very stress-free. What the hell am I saying? Words are hard. The experience behind the wheel of the MG ZS Hybrid is very stress-free. It's not, annoying and bombarding you with warnings and safety system related stuff all the time. It's just a very relaxing vehicle to drive, and it can actually hold its own when the going gets dynamic, so to say. And to be honest with you, I'm not being paid a dime to say any of this. I was not expecting to be as impressed as I am. This is a fantastic car. It really is. Ooh, that's the really bumpy part of the highway. It's fine, we got it. And really, there's not a whole lot else I can say. There's not a whole lot about this car that's worth lambasting or complaining about, because it just does everything you ask it to do exceptionally well. And it's also pretty good value for money. I'm not gonna tell you the price because it's irrelevant. It's probably not gonna cost the same where you're from, but a spec for spec, the base ZS Hybrid undercuts the Toyota Corolla Cross in base form by about 10 grand here. So that's pretty good value for money. And with that, I think we can wrap this up because the exit is coming up anyway. This is an excellent car, and it gets a score of 8.5 out of 10. Thank you everyone for watching this video. If you liked it, be sure to hit like and subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you think of this car in the comments below. Follow along with Blue Sky and the community tab on YouTube for updates on upcoming videos. And I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.